Hi, everybody, and welcome to Red Wings Rant, where tirades and impassioned pleas for your Detroit Red Wings. Will they finally have a home? Today, ladies and gentlemen, we will finally be celebrating a signing from this goddamn organization, but I'm not going to be talking about it alone.
Boom! As if there's any doubt. Matt, what a joyous day for us.
Was that a Doom or Boom reference from those two kooky Costco buyers or whatever you want to call them?
I don't know that reference at all.
Oh, all right. There were a couple of goofuses on AEW a couple weeks ago, and I sent you.
Yeah. No, that was not a reference to that. That was just a enthusiastic cheer, boom, that we signed the Burger Man.
All right, yeah. First cheer from the comments. Righteous coming in hot. Let's go, Mike. This is a day of celebration. I gotta say, nothing's changed on this roster. We knew like Lucas Raymond was going to get signed, but there's something about the signing actually happening that brings you around a little bit.
I really thought that we were going to do a bridge deal. I really thought that we were going to do nickel and dime this poor guy and make him, this team Stamkos. And then the 8-year, 8 per mortgage news was released. Matt, he ain't going nowhere. So, I really hope that that last month of last season is a harbinger of things to come, because that's a lot of cheddar cheese for a winger. It's a lot of cheddar, and it makes me think that some of our commenters in the past couple episodes were pretty smart, because they said, I think Seider could be looking at $9 million. I thought that was poppycock, and based on this deal, Matt, based on the market, good Lord, we might be looking at a $9 million defenseman named Mo Seider.
I think for sure we are. I've heard some rumors of a bridge deal, so that as of right now, Moritz Seider doesn't get paid more than Dylan Larkin. But then that'll change very quickly. But yeah, let's go over the numbers, right? 8 years, 8.075 on the AAV for Mr. Lucas Raymond. Steve Yzerman in his press conference, not really surprising anybody with this comment. I just thought it was fun to throw in there. I expect him to be one of our top players again. I expect his game to continue to grow this year. This sentiment too was shared nationally when this contract was signed. You saw the boys from Spit and Chicklets were very excited. Mike, I've called out my new favorite hockey podcast, which is What Chaos. They before the signing actually happened, they recorded this week's show, and they declared their podcast the Lucas Raymond podcast for the rest of the year, because they're anticipating a huge year from Lucas Raymond, which is fun to know that happened before they put that on their podcast before the signing even happened. But Mike, news is getting around, right? Like the spin on Lucas Raymond is surely turning to be a more fun one to read about, to be a more fun one to interact with online, at least from those most knowledgeable with the sport. And it's just, this is I was going to start the show by actually throwing out there, like I've started to consume all of the national media again, since this is the kickoff week, right? Training camp started. I officially labeled this as the start of season 6, Mike, of Red Wings Rant.
Ooh.
That's right. Season 6, Mike, is underway.
And
what was that?
And the Yzer plan?
We did start in tandem, yeah. Yeah, you're right. I had to do that quick math there, because I was like, wait, season 6, he's on his 6th draft. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So, Mike, I'm kind of all in. I'm kind of like, now that hockey's getting started, like I was going to embarrass myself here. I've been very negative through the off season, and I'm very guilty. I did the same thing last year where I trashed the roster through the whole off season. And then right when we started to sniff some hockey, I was like, you know what? I'm hearing what's going on with Boston. I'm hearing what's going on with the Panthers, like the Lightning. They've got one scary line now. The Leafs, again, I'm picking them to win the cup. I'm sorry. I shouldn't start off a Red Wings podcast by saying that. But Mike, the rest of this division is kind of fallen off a little bit. And you know what?
Well,
This team, if Lucas Raymond continues on that hot pace from the second half of the season, and you've got a Patrick Kane who's getting a full year this year, Mike, I don't know. I'm coming around a little bit.
Oh boy,
I'm coming around.
Matt's had a little Kool-Aid over there, a little red and white Kool-Aid.
I've been drinking enough blue Kool-Aid. I needed to chill down.
They kind of tapered off after this past Sunday. Yeah. We're not going to talk about that anymore. But I think we talked about a few like highly spread like polls, just about getting a pulse for Red Wing fans and like how they feel like this regime is doing, and like the confidence in the management was wavering. It was not so much with the draft. I think we all feel kind of like, well, he's kind of doing the best he can in the first round, but it kind of felt like with free agency, with some of our trades not quite panning out, you're starting to look at this cap sheet and it's, topped by people like Andrew Kopp getting 5.6, Kopp getting 5.1, the Sherratts, the Justin Halls. And those deals were, meatier, right? They're, 3, 4, 5-year deals for guys that were kind of like, man, I could see, rolling the dice on a season or two, but we're going to commit to these guys for like 4 or 5 years. So when we saw Lucas and his negotiating, kind of taking a little bit longer and longer into almost the start of the season, right? We're almost in camp, like real camp. And I think I had concerns that this guy was going to be somebody signing a deal that, again, we wouldn't be happy with. It would be somehow shorter than the deals of the jabronis that we've tied ourselves to for the foreseeable future into, 2025, 2026, 2027. But I feel like this move it's a really big deal. And I think like you said, it is something to be celebrated because we have a real up and coming player getting paid appropriately for a long time. So this feels like the first time in a while, and I'm including Larkin in this. This might be the best contract Yzerman has ever signed as a Red Wing. My beef with the Larkin one is still that he is so important to this team. He's still getting underpaid. We've talked about how the team crumbles if he dares to miss a shift.
True.
So this feels like arguably the most important contract and the best contract he signed as a Red Wing GM.
Now, we do want to hit the comments real quick. First of all, Chewy saying howdy from the hospital. God damn it, Chewy.
Chewy, get better.
You're doing okay, man. But he also threw out a let's go. But glad to have you, Schuster. Man, I this hurts me every time we read your updates, dude. I really hope you're doing good. Dan B throwing out there just the nice reminder of who Mo Seider's agent is. But Dan B throws out there, if Lemieux holds Mo out, I'm going to dislike him even more than I currently do. Damn it all to hell. If we shouldn't have, like, how did we not expect this to happen? Right.
The contract's done. They've agreed to it. He's just not sending it back into the Red Wings. I get it.
Right. Jared wants to know, Mike, who are the jabronis you speak of?
Oh, I literally meant, the people I just listed, the Cops comfort, like those questionable deals. This is the first time I really feel excited about the deal. Yeah.
Right.
So in terms of length, it feels deserved. In terms of the dollar amount, I don't feel like he's getting ripped off, and it made me kind of mad that Yzerman lowballed Larkin. Oh, he took a team-friendly deal. Man, you should be rolling out the red carpet for this guy, whatever he wants. If he wants Little Caesars / Dylan Larkin Arena, God damn it, do it. Make it part of the deal. But, what do I know?
Well, it did kind of feel like one of the things, and again, yeah, super happy today. It did feel kind of weird because it felt like this was also a catalyst to the signing for Lucas Raymond. But Berggren coming in at $825 for 1 year. I mean, based on all the things we think we could get out of Berggren, holy mackerel, is that a fair deal for this season for us? But yeah, this is something too where Berggren, man, just prove it. Just make us hurt next season or go test the free agent market. But nobody's gonna want it, dude, unless you prove it this year. But for sure, nailed it here. And then it just kind of felt like you started. I started sniffing around. It was like, all right, this happened. I feel like somebody's coming down the line. But for sure, the last thing we have going on, Mike, and Yzerman talked about it yesterday in his press conference. He said, I don't think we're terribly far apart. And again, just to bring up those rumors too of possibly shorter term deal to get Seider under the 8.7. Of course, banking on that next contract is going to be humongous, which I'll say it right now. If Lemieux wants to get paid and he can be patient, as the agent of Seider, I would also do that. I would take a shorter deal now. Take the 8.69 for a couple of years and then just blow the doors off of the barn, man. But yeah, if they want to get paid and that cap goes up the way it's estimated to go up, Buco bucks, man. If they can be patient and Seider can keep killing it, keep growing, and of course this defense.
I think he's got a better chance. Let's say the most important Red Wings are Seider, Raymond, Larkin, and maybe Edmondson. I know you and I are maybe higher on him than probably even Bultman, but of those four players, I think Seider is the likeliest one to get a contract that's like 10, 11 per season. And I don't think he's scored enough to get that. So maybe that's where the bridge deal can kind of help him get to that point where he is the highest paid Red Wing.
Yeah, and you take a look ahead, and I think this is important too, but you look at that 24-25 season, Steve left himself exactly the 8.7 number. Well, not exactly. Okay, sorry. But 8.7 with some change on the back end there. But he's right at that 8.7. This claim that Steve doesn't, he wants to keep Larkin as the highest paid player, which I do respect that notion. I do respect the strategy, right? Hey, like you're in negotiations. You're like, this is your captain, and you get a chance to speak one-on-one with Seider, and you're like, you really think you deserve more than your captain? Like, like putting him in that position to make him say yes. But, it is. The cap's going up. Like, it's a little old fashioned, if you ask me. Like, I get it. I get the strategy. It'd be great if it worked out. We have a lot of money locked up and some players that are not expected to push us into Stanley Cup contention this year, Mike. There's a part of me that's like, let's not slow this down too much, Steve, because you need to keep Larkin as your highest paid player. I do feel like it's a little old fashioned to kind of set it up the Boston Bruins way. The old Boston Bruins way. Of course, Pasta's getting paid out the behind now.
Yeah, I think that would make more sense if, Larkin was a top 10 guy, but he's a top 25 player in the league, 20, 25, 30. Is that fair? Is that fair? And of those guys, like, who could, potentially carry a team on his back, like every facet of the game, at his age, with how good he is right now, and how he could get even better. I think that would be a tough sell for me. Like, his agent would scoff at that. Like, dude, come on, we're getting paid. The market, we know the cap is going up. Means that his value's going up, and then inflation. So I can't help that Larkin signed a team-friendly deal. That's good for him, good for the team. But my dude's here. He's at work. He wants to get paid. So I think it does make a difference to me. I'm not going to just do this to help out the Red Wings. I'm also going to help out my client. So this does not surprise me at all. This 32 thoughts graphic you're sharing from Elliotte Friedman and I don't know the other gentleman.
Boo, yeah, he's brand new, taking over for the recently fired Jeff Merrick, but Kyle Bukauskas. You got to just say it. You just got to rip the Band-Aid off. That's the only way to say it right.
So Seider wants more than 8.7, and I think that makes sense because really this is just about Larkin being terrible at negotiating, or being a team-friendly deal. I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know. That doesn't mean all of us have the exact same mentality. Like this he's not from Waterford. He's not driving from his mom's house, to work. He's going from Germany to come here. Like he's here to make money, man. This is his job. I'm not going to kill him at all for that.
Also, I think it was maybe Frank Saravelli that reported today that Seider is practicing in Germany right now.
Ooh.
Just not your favorite thing to see on social media.
Is that
a little bit of
legality though?
Like, well, yeah, I don't think he could actually. Yeah, he actually couldn't go to or be seen. Be seen in Traverse City's training facilities right now, right? But yeah. But yeah, I don't know if you have to go to Germany. I don't know. Oh, you know what? That's right. It's a visa issue. That's what it is. Yes, I totally forgot. Steve totally mentioned that. No, I completely. That's a huge boner on that one. Yeah, but yeah, Steve was.
Jared's in the comments asking Jared the Boner Shaw, saying have the conditions for Raymond's contract drop. Buckbeat just shows cap hit, doesn't show a no trade or no movement. I thought that he had a 10-team no trade that kicks in 4 years. Is that different from what you've heard?
I haven't looked into that at all. But if you go into that's what it is. Modified no trade clause starting 28-29.
Okay.
Very nice, Mike. Good research.
And then Jared the Boner Shaw also saying, been hearing today that term is the hang-up, not necessarily salary.
That was so. The rumor that I read earlier today was reflective of we can agree on a number if the term will come down. But I think, Mike, didn't we say all we want is 8 years for Seider? Like, didn't we say just make it 8 years, whatever it is? And this would be kind of. I hate to say it. Like, as much as I love seeing our boys get paid, but if you're talking about like the success of your front office, pay the man whatever contract you give him right now won't hurt as bad in a couple of years, and I have to keep attaching if the cap goes up like it's supposed to. But man, keep him on this team for 8 years.
And I think it's only rough for this season because thankfully some of these, kind of rough contracts come off the books. If you're looking at the Hussos, you're looking at who else did I have? There's a couple defensemen. Oli Mata probably won't have a job anymore. Petrie, that'll go. That's like almost $5.5 million that you can dedicate towards, like young defensemen. Hopefully coming up through the pipeline. So that'll be a pretty significant chunk that you can kind of play around with.
Well, yeah, looking at the 25-26, like even right now, projected is 27.8 mil on the cap. So that's before we hear any official changes too. So it's going to be potentially a very fun off season. But what who did we have? I mean, obviously Kane's coming off. Man, I can't believe we signed Tarasenko for 2 years. That one.
that does seem like a long contract for him. Yeah,
I keep getting reminded of that every time I pull this up, and I'm like, oh.
I think the tough part too is that he's going to be in those spots that I think the Berggren man would succeed in, and he's just not going to get those opportunities.
So Jared,
like a second power play unit will probably be what Tarasenko and Comfort Tarasenko. Who we got? Well, maybe the Berggren man still slides in there. So the first one will be what, Larkin, Raymond, DeBrincat?
I think Berger, when he was up with the team last year, he played on that second power play unit.
Oh shoot! Well, I guess Kane, Tarasenko, Comfort on the second unit. Okay, sorry, Berger.
On the second unit.
Maybe we'll just run. We'll run one defenseman.
I'm putting Kane on the first, right? So right now your quarterback pretty much as a default has to be.
I like the idea of him carrying the whole power play unit because he's good enough.
Kane?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your first one, right? Your quarterback Seider. You've got Kane on the right flank. You've got left flank is Raymond. You've got the bumper as Larkin, and I don't know. Do you put do you split up? You probably split up Tarasenko, right? So you want to have your right side for Lucas, or shooting right is Lucas, shooting left is Kane. Who did I miss? What did I miss so far? Somebody help me out. What did I miss?
DeBrincat has not been named.
Oh yeah, we could put DeBrincat on there. Let's do it. Let's go. that should be on your first power. I totally forgot DeBrincat was even on the team. I'm looking at the roster and my eyes skipped over DeBrincat's name like 6 or 7 times. But yeah, you got to get DeBrincat in there. But I do think a second power play unit. I mean, you could kind of just sub in Tarasenko in for the Kane spot, and then I don't know. Do we want to do this right now?
No, we don't have to.
Who's your quarterback? Do you hope Edvindson's got it going? Because Mike, I gotta say, you're pretty much settling on Ben Sherratt, Justin Hall, Ole Mata, Jeff Petrie, Eric Gustafson.
I miss Ghost Bear already.
Yeah, for real. For real.
I guess what maybe letting him go. Maybe they think that looking at the cap sheet this year, we're basically done after Seider.
Yep.
Unless they release somebody, so maybe they're looking at this whole season as growing pains, and they're going to let Edmondson kind of figure things out as our power play leader.
Can I give Steve a hard time here?
No,
so
Mike,
you and I,
flag bearer for the Yzer plant. Oh,
we are huge fans of the Vegas Golden Knights and their ability to, dare I even say, manipulate the cap. Because Mike, they hornswoggle it. Like it's they go far beyond any normal legal, I think, turn of phrase, because we know what's going on, right? The Tampa Bay Lightning are very guilty. Kucherov went as far after a cup win to wear a T-shirt, call it like the T-shirt said like LTIR or something on it. I can't remember. So these teams are like, whether or not they're ever going to admit it, but you put somebody with a large cap number and you can manipulate the cap quite a bit. I feel like Steve kind of fudged things up in this press conference yesterday, where he said, like, all of our goaltenders are healthy. They're all ready for camp. And I was like, Steve, my man, like, leave some wiggle room. Like, nobody needs to know this. We could keep it on the down low. They can all show up to camp, and then, surprise injury, like, you did not have to announce that they're all walking in as healthy as a freshborn baby. Like,
maybe the thinking there is that if, some team is absolutely dying for goaltending, you can give the Red Wings a call and we'll, dump Husso on you with a 4th round pick or something.
Yeah, just
Brian Burton, welcome, saying boot Petrie to the Tigers and Husso needs to go.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely brought in the insurance and Cam Talbot. If there was any thought that Husso was going to give it a shot this year, but all the injuries, there's no way by the end of the season we're looking at Husso with 30 games.
Well, let's look at this comment too. Dan B saying Bill Daly and Gary Bettman say there's no cap circumvention. Teams aren't cheating.
Oh, all right, problem solved.
I kind of like their stance on that because if they go against it, they're going against the league that they helped design and advocate. So I understand their political response to this. And again, I hope that words aren't minced coming from Matt. Matt and I think we're on the same page here. It's all jealousy and envy. Like, I wish we knew how to manipulate the cap, like Vegas, like Tampa Bay, like Toronto, the really creative teams who somehow still manage to stay at the top of the league. And we stay respectfully below it. And, we're respectfully out of the playoffs. So that's kind of goes hand in hand.
So continuing the conversation on Mo Seider, and we'll pivot a little bit of ways from missing the playoffs, which before this week again I was so in, like, yeah, unfortunately we're gonna miss it, but now I'm all in again. But part of the conversation Elliotte Friedman threw out there was he heard that Charlie McAvoy was the cap hit that was being bantied about for comparisons for Seider.
Woo!
Oh, that's a 9.5 right there, my friend. That's a high one, but again, I think we did walk away with as long as it's 8. So you can't do it right now. Steve would have to get creative and move some of these guys around, or God forbid, one of them took a vacation for a few months. But I did want to add that in there, that was one of the main points on the Friedman podcast this week. But I don't mind that number. I think there's a person out there who would hear that and say, "Ah, you guys are dumb," and it's fine, whatever. But
I mean, Seider is more productive than he was at the same age, right?
Yeah,
I think because McAvoy came in a little earlier, right at age 20, I think, a nose earlier. So he's coming in his season by season points. Because I don't think there's any disagreement that Seider's bringing the beef. But if you want to get the big numbers, I do think you want to score just a hair more. But McAvoy is kind of a counter argument, because he's got 32, 28, 32, 30, 56, 52, 47. And he's not been as durable as Seider, who's basically played every single possible Red Wing game that he could. 82 games, 82 games, 82 games. And his last his 3 seasons, 50 points, 42, 42. So, I mean, he's more durable. He's, a tougher dude. Yeah, I think the case could be made. He could be making McAvoy money. Hopefully Steve doesn't see this and do a spit take all over the screen, because it won't look good for his cap sheet.
And quick thank you to Puckpedia for giving out all these free player cards and team cards and whatnot.
I really like this idea. Brian Burton saying, put a goal incentive on Seider. I like that a lot, Matt.
I mean, I like it.
I
wouldn't sign that contract.
I don't. I know hockey's a tough sport. It's like, I know that they do that a lot in basketball. Do that a lot. Baseball do that a lot. I can't even think of an instance to that. How often does that happen in hockey? Do they have incentive deals, or they'll just do like a bonus if you win like a trophy?
Yeah, definitely the bonuses. Bonuses are a huge part of the game. We talked about this, I think 2 weeks ago, where it was like, that's how the Leafs bring people in, is they bonus you heavy at the start of the contract, so you could start playing with that money now, and you could start making it work for you. And that's how they try to do their version of all the tax incentives, like down in Florida and Tennessee. But yeah, there's ways, and hopefully we see something that gets creative for Seider here, so that there is a nice win. But I mean, yeah, for the most part, I mean, we kind of look at the Lucas Raymond deal, and we're just kind of like, all right, yeah, boilerplate. We're nothing special here. I guess maybe we were just waiting until Seider's camp came down to a particular number, and then they were like, okay, we could settle with 8 on Raymond. But nothing special there. Raymond definitely was the one that was considered easier out of the two, and not just because of it's signed first, but there's nothing.
It's also like that position, right? I think that position for us, we're so desperate for a wing who can score. Like, I think for him, he's like, hey, just give me that $8 million. I'll be the number 2 paid guy in this team. We're like, please take this. We don't have anything in the pipeline. But Seider, sure. I mean, how many number 1 defensemen are actually like projected to be better than him for the next like 3-4 years? Maybe a handful.
Maybe we had the NHL list, at least we could say was influenced by hockey writers, where he came out as the youngest guy in the top 20, and the youngest guy in the top 20 for all defensemen by a couple of seasons,
Like-
right? And by seasons, I mean like class that you were drafted in. So for sure, he's testing out, grading out, performing
It's, what's funny is
to that level.
it's kind of like how I used to do my homework. I would do the easy assignments first, and then save the last one for like the night before it was due.
Yeah.
So Yzerman's like, all right, I got a burger here, and it's not even $1 million. Ha! Piece of cake. Oh man, our only wing in the entire minor league system, NHL system. All right, we'll maybe slightly overpay for a year or two, but it'll pan out in the long run. And now this deal is going to be so difficult for Mo. We might have to see like a salary dump move before it's done. That's how difficult it's going to be. He's going to have to juggle like 2 plates.
We've talked about it before.
You're telling me he's going to make at or less? It's not going to be less than Raymond.
Right.
Is are Lemieux and Mo firing up Puckpedia right now, looking at 8.78? Is that really what's going on?
You're just reminding me of Will Arnett from Arrested Development when he's doing the. Are you trying to tell me? Are you telling me that I'm the guy? Are you telling the guy who? I don't know if you remember that bit from. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm just alienated all of our audience because nobody watched Arrested Development.
We used to back in the day, man. That was 20 years ago. But...
It was. Now, speaking of highly ranked defensemen, Mike, did you know we had the 9th best right wing in the NHL? That's who just signed an 8-year, $8 million deal, according to EA Sports NHL 25. Now, Mike, thank God. Steve,
they don't rate players based on who's that guy who writes for The Athletic and gave him like average skills for every single scouting report.
Corey Proudman, right?
Proudman, thank you.
Thank God that Steve got this deal done before the game was officially released, Mike, because franchise mode, Mike, that's going to be a piece of cake. Rolling with you're what, 22? How old's Lucas? What is he?
You basically get to do 22? A fantasy draft like after year 1, right? Because you got like 20 mil to play around with. All the terrible players contracts are ending.
For sure. But you've got now you've got an 88 overall locked up for 8 years. Mike, he's definitely sneaking up to that 92, 93 overall in a couple of seasons, as long as it keeps up with the production he's been putting up for me these last few years in NHL. But God damn, that's gonna be fun to play with. Like the Red Wings immediately become like a top team for EA Sports, and you start to question, Mike, was this Steve's motivation? Oh, I'm kidding. But no, this is pretty cool. Oh, go
ahead.
I was gonna say we're kind of having the same conversation we had with Mo Seider when we were talking about Mo being in the top 20 for the NHL.com list. Mike, I mean Lucas he's not surrounded by spring chickens here on this list, far and away. And this is just fun. We're having fun, guys. We're not saying like officially Lucas Raymond is number 9 or top 10 anything, but I mean we know what we've seen. We know now what the rest of the NHL is seeing. But it's funsies.
One thing I'm seeing that we should touch on.
Yeah.
Dan B saying, I think with Ghost Bear's departure, Mo Seider will step up the offense. God, I hope so. He's got a lot on his shoulders right now. We need you to be our best defensive defenseman and our best offensive defenseman, and be on the power play and the penalty kill and be our best at 5-on-5. Thank you. And then Crimson saying, had an Islanders fan tell me that we got scammed signing Raymond. That's a wild comment because besides just looking at Matt's NHL screenshot of the best right wings, we've kind of touched on a few things, right? With the cap going up, and this deal's just going to get better as the years go on. This is a guy who's already productive at age, 22, 23? Had no trouble carrying the team on his back last season. I think they were going to see more of that. And again, I think they're nuts if you kind of look around the league and, see what kind of money guys are pulling in and seeing him, just get an 8. God, it's pretty reasonable for a guy who's going to be that important to your squad. And then there was a Dan B one in here too. Oh, Matt, I might need you to touch on this one. With Utah's new owner, there really isn't a dumping ground for bad deals. But with those absorption contracts, isn't there only like 3 instances you can do with that?
To pass around contracts, you can have a single contract. I think like a portion of the cap held twice with like say you're talking about Andrew Kopp's contract. That can be what's the word I'm looking for? I'm saying held out. What's the retained twice, but then you as a team, I think you can retain on 3 salaries. We could Google this. What am I doing? Who gives a shit what I think? But Dan B's talking about with Arizona moving to Utah, new ownership in Utah. They're actually gunning, to be successful. They actually want to turn that franchise into something. So Dan B definitely nailing it there. That we won't have the same old Coyotes to rely upon to just take all those dumpy contracts. But I would say, Dan says there isn't a dumping ground. I would say just one hasn't been identified yet. So for sure, somebody will want to maybe take on some draft picks and some contracts.
Jared's swooping in to rescue us too. A team can only retain 3 salaries. Oh, and cool. Who made this really smart comment? Crimson saying Raymond literally better than every wing on the Islanders. Matt, let me know when you'd rather have this player than Lucas Raymond. Here we go. Anders Lee.
Lucas.
Kyle Palmieri.
Lucas.
Pierre Engvall.
Lucas.
Oliver Wahlstrom.
Lucas.
I don't know if I haven't Googled it yet, but no relation. Simon Holmstrom.
Lucas.
Hudson Fashing.
Whoa, Lucas.
Matt Martin.
Lucas.
At 35. Woo! Suck it, Islanders.
I think he just signed a PTO. I don't know. I feel like I just saw him recently in the honestly, Elliotte, Friedman, Cervelli Twitterverse.
Those are all the wings that they have. I feel like I'd still take Lucas over Bo Horvat and Barzell. I don't know. I might still do it, man. Might still do it. So I would still take Lucas over every single Islander that you have. That's worth a damn. So suck it.
You could go through. All right, let's do this because.
Are you going through the Islanders? I hope not. It's nauseating.
This is the game I played earlier today after listening to the What Chaos podcast where they were talking about how excited they were for Lucas. The 2 guys on the podcast actually did differ in how they think this season's going to go. They think the Red Wings are going to look better this year offensively, but still end up in sixth place in the division. Yeah. But if you went around this division, there's only a couple of times where you're like really scared of the right winger that's coming up there. And I'm talking about, I'm going to throw in there. One of those names is Sam Reinhart. And I would just say he did really great last year, but I don't think I would have shelled out for Sammy because I do think that was sort of an inflated season for Sammy. But anyway, you go Pasta is in Boston. Yeah. For Buffalo, you've got Alex Tuck, which is great for Buffalo. Florida, again, I would take Lucas Raymond over Sam Reinhart. And I know what last year's numbers look like. Taking Lucas. Montreal, this one's fun. Cole Caulfield. 1,010%. Yeah.
Real quick, I'm going to exit the studio because I got a few comments that my video is coming in like garbage.
Oh, got it. All right. Well, we will see you in a sec. Yep. But jumping over to Ottawa, Claude Giroux. I mean, come on, no brainer. We're taking Lucas. Tampa, I mean, what are we going to do? It's Nikita Kucherov, right? Same deal with Boston. And then Toronto, which it's listing Mitch Marner, but I saw some articles today that Mitch isn't they're they're talking about splitting up everybody, splitting up Matthews, splitting up Mitch Marner. Oh God, just started playing the theme song. Splitting up Matthews, Marner, Nylander, making sure that they're all doing some equal work on different lines. So I would even challenge that we would see an Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner on the first line together. So yeah, if that becomes true, then the team you're really afraid of then just leaves Boston and Tampa. Comparing,
you know what, I'm
first line right wings, but any hoozles.
I did need to leave to try and reset my video, but Brian Burton, I'm sorry, I don't know this reference, but it still made me laugh. Mike needs a Pop-Tart and a Verner's.
It just makes me hungry. I had a Pop-Tart a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's my first Pop-Tart in like, I don't know, 2 years. Brown sugar cinnamon. Man, my work.
I sit by somebody who eats unfrosted Pop-Tarts. Like, prefers them.
What's the argument for not having frosted? Have you approached this person and questioned them on it?
They said that they think they taste better.
Jared says when you opened a Pop-Tart with a hot mic. That's the Pop-Tart reference.
Oh, I got it. Thank you. That was a career highlight for me, so I'm glad you guys keep that receipt for me.
So back to training camp headlines. Lucas Raymond is signed, Mike. I'm sure nobody can read this, but we did get our training camp roster today. I did think it was funny. Frank Saravelli, when this training camp roster got tweeted out, Frank Saravelli immediately followed that up with a fascinated by the Red Wings goaltending pecking order at the end of training camp. He goes to list Cam Talbot, Ville Husso, Alex Lyon, Jack Campbell, Sebastian Cossa. That is $8.925 million in 4 one-way contracts requiring waivers, plus a 2021 first-round pick Cossa, who is waiver exempt. Frank calling out the obvious here, the thing we've been talking about all offseason. Mike, are you laughing at Frank or are you laughing at a comment? Sometimes I can never tell.
Saravelli, he hit a home run here. Fascinating is a perfectly backhanded compliment there. Yeah. Fascinating. I have no idea how they're going to make these 4 one-way contracts work. The only way it works is, somebody's getting moved, and I don't. This is Yzerman. He didn't invest well, so he's just got 4 scratch-off lottery tickets, and hopefully one of them pans out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I saw this. If you go in the comments of Frank, it's always not many people are on his side. Everybody was being kind of mean to him, but I do agree with you. I think if you read this and or had this conversation with Frank off of Twitter, he's not using the word fascinated. There's clearly a point he's trying to make here.
Completely baffled. Yeah, dumbfounded, thunderstruck. It's just.
Unfortunately, Frank is how many months behind now on realizing this, because we've been talking about it all off season. But it is kind of fun. This is our first time, right, that the Red Wings are tweeting out that full lineup, and you just kind of you do get a chance to look at this, and you got to pick your jaw up off the ground. But it's a very solvable problem. But what's the timeline on that? What's it going to be? How sad are we going to be? How much is it going to hurt us?
It certainly means this is Husso's last year with the Red Wing jersey. Certainly.
Oh, for sure. Does any Red Wing goaltender last more than 2 years?
It's true.
Under the Yzer plan. So yeah, keep Cossa away from this roster as long as possible. Max Bultman actually touched on this too earlier today. Going into camp, Talbot is my prediction to lead the team in starts. He has the most consistent track record. Puzzle is a long way from solved, including the manner, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I really am. I could be told and explained why we have so many goaltenders. I can listen to Steve talk about how we dealt with injuries last year. I don't get why Steve spends so much time on this and lets this kind of hurt our cap situation. And now we're all immediately talking about, like, after, a couple of quiet months from the Red Wings, like, we're immediately talking about it again. And we're like, hey, this problem needs to be addressed at some point, right? When really the problem last year wasn't, I would argue the more pressing issue was the defense. And all we did was sub out a Ghost Bear who clearly had a spot on the roster for a reason. We just struggled to figure out who's going to quarterback our power play number 2, right? But you replace him with Gustafsson, and we're talking about, like, yeah, but he kind of plays better defense. It's like, oh, okay, great. So that's our big defensive move. And yeah, and Mike, you and I, super high on Simon Edvinsson. I think all of a sudden we've seen the entire world, like, kind of take a step away and distance themselves from Edvinsson, which I don't understand. But it's still going to be a full rookie season. So we're not expecting, not that it's technically a rookie season. He's past that. He can't win a Calder this year. But it's his, it's going to be his first full year. You can't expect him to change this team or put the whole team on his back. So we didn't address the real problem. And I hate that we're all fully aware that there's still a huge problem to figure out. Goaltending.
We just created a different problem.
Right.
Now we have 4 people that are in Costa's way.
Right.
And arguably Augustine. So we have four human beings that we'd have to move. There's some really good comments coming in too. Chewy from downtown saying unfrosted Pop-Tarts have more filling. That would make me want to switch over just to try one. Dan B saying Campbell and Husso will be claimed off waivers by Vancouver or the Swayman-less Boston Bruins. Derek Hand. Oh, man. We haven't heard from you today, but you came in off the bench to say s'more Pop-Tarts. Love it.
Derek's in on the Pop-Tart conversation. He's is that true, Chewy? I've always been scared to try it.
There's going to be a lot of sales in unfrosted Pop-Tarts based on one man's comment here.
I do like Derek's comment though back on the decor. This decor is an island of misfit toys. I'll go back to shout out, hey, stop listening to this podcast. Go listen to What Chaos. But they had a pretty funny joke today that our defense is just a smattering of guys that you thought had retired. And I was like, ooh, ow.
Hey, that's not cool, man. Yeah. Also, we haven't heard from Jay yet today, but he wrote, I bet Husso and Campbell play most of preseason to see which one they keep. I think that is a pretty smart comment and probably going to come true. Quite. I got to think that, maybe Talbot will get a starter, a period or two to kind of, get the rust off, but buckle in for, I think you're right on the money, Jay. A lot of Husso, a lot of Campbell, probably very little Kosa because it won't matter, but.
Yeah, I mean, don't force that one, right? Like, I think that wasn't a name where I was like, all right, come save us, Kosa. But
no, it's, it just shows that there's no urgency or immediacy to his being a Red Wing, that they, picked up 2 more guys who are, kind of in a glob of goaltenders where they might have a few hot weeks, but it's, not somebody that you would pin all your hopes on. It's 4 Band-Aids essentially on an open goaltending wound.
Well, maybe things will get figured out defensively, but I did want to go through.
It would be great if Husso played well, because then maybe we could move him in that contract and just kind of make things a little bit easier for next offseason.
I don't.
And I don't hate him. I know we're not going to keep him, and that cap hit it's a monster.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of like whoever you put in there is just going to get peppered. So, I don't know. All right, so we do have some more headlines that I wanted to go over, and it kind of gets thrown out there. We're going to steal from Max Bultman. Always does some good work for us to come up with topics for the show. So we'll jump into those here. But I do want to call out Brian Burton here. Mike.
Yes.
Blueberry Pop-Tart. That's an elite Pop-Tart. It does not get enough credit. The cinnamon, the brown sugar cinnamon, we know. It's a classic. It hits every single time.
Now,
but I would argue blueberry should be number 2 on that list.
Brian, I do need you to just expand for me. Do you mean the blueberry Pop-Tart or the blue wildberry Pop-Tart, which is one of my favorites? That blue frosting really hits the spot. It's really good.
Blueberry.
Jared has renamed the show Pop-Tart Rant.
I don't mind.
Chewy with a pretty solid list, by the way. Blueberry, cherry, s'mores, and strawberry. I don't know. I don't see any brown sugar in there, Chewy. But yeah, cherry, s'mores are pretty good. Oh, just plain blueberry. Okay. I'll be on Wildberry Island. That's all right.
I'm making a
You're making a Pop-Tart poll?
Yeah, a poll for us to vote on YouTube. But okay. I mean, so I call out again the defense here. Max threw it out there in his questions to be answered this season, and he did qualify too. He's like, it's not just training camp that this gets answered. We'll know by the end of the season. Which also, like, come on, Max, you don't need to qualify it like that. Like, come on, let's try and answer something in training camp here. But will the defense improve? He does call out Red Wings gave up league's 9th most goals per game. Of course, we also finished pretty well, number 3 in the league in shooting percentage. So we made up for that. And that's why we were just a smidge away from the playoffs last year. But yeah, I mean, the most important thing here would be how bad was the forward unit, because or the forward units, because that's where Steve is trying to fix these problems and saying he's got more balance in the lineup now and he's going to put guys in the right spot. Right. And he references like Armott. So was it really that? Did we really feel like when the 4th line was out there, that's where we were just being absolutely rolled? I mean, because I don't know. I kind of call malarkey on that. I kind of look across the league, and I don't think that teams are like problems defensively will be solved when we finally figure out that center on the 4th line. And don't even get me started on that left wing. Because I feel like a lot of teams across the league are trying to use that spot to figure out what they've got prospect wise. If it's not a top tier prospect, like, let's bring in some guys and see what can happen here. And I don't know, like, that's kind of how Max talked about it. Like, we lost.
Yeah, it was
ahead.
My favorite stat for the past couple of years is goal differential. And when that started to come back to earth, that's when we just quite couldn't, get past the wall. And we, petered out and finished, 9th. Because we started giving up more goals. We weren't scoring as many because we had that insane couple shooting percentages from a couple areas. We led the league. We almost led the history of the National Hockey League in shooting percentage from low danger areas. So that started to regress a little bit, right? But man, will the defense improve? I think that's why this season is definitely going to be just growing pains, because largely the same cast of characters on defense. You have gotten rid of the Ghost Bear, who was an offense-first defenseman. You also got rid of Jake Wallman for reasons. And you'll be replacing him with Justin Hall, Justin Healthy Scratch Hall, and Gustafson. So, Matt, are those 2 significant defensive upgrades for your 6th defense? What about offensively? We added defensive stopper Vladimir Tarasenko. Matt, do you think that helps our defense? giving him 15 minutes a night.
No. Look, we're definitely going to be putting some minutes here on top of Tarasenko and Patrick Kane. And at some point, Patrick Kane can't just be expected to circle around the blue line until we get possession of the puck again.
Yeah, but he's good at it.
And the best thing people can do to combat like any defensive issues is to talk about how important it is to keep our third line together of Andrew Kopp, Rasmussen, and Fisher, when I would challenge that I would like to get a little bit more offense out of my third line than to just say like, oh, your third line is that you have 8 close to 10 mil invested in. That line doesn't do any scoring. So just forget it. Like I'm not a fan of that conversation. But
I'm just Jared saying, no way Kane and Tarasenko ever on the same line.
But isn't that crazy? Like that, when you start to look at this lineup and everybody says you got to keep that third line intact. I mean, even Max kind of threw that out there in his article, and it is I don't know, a beacon of hope that people called out, through the off season this year of like, oh, how cool is that this line can get another shot to work together.
Do you mean the third line? Wait, is that Rasmussen,
Kopp and Fisher?
Kopp and Fisher. So you want to keep them together. Fourth line is just going to be it's going to be a boggle of what? Tyler Mott, Veleno, the Berggren. So that means that Tarasenko might be out there with Kane. Or you put one of those guys with, it might be like Kane, Larkin, DeBrincat, and then what? Tarasenko, Comfer, and Comfer. Yeah.
All right. I just lost all confidence in this whole season again. I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, how do you do this? Do you just do Kane and DeBrincat are together, so then Tarasenko and Raymond are together, and you just got to figure out, can Raymond carry a second line, and you kind of hope that first line, you position it in the right way. You hope that Larkin and DeBrincat can make up for a lot of the defensive inefficiencies that Kane's going to bring out there. And then you kind of play that same game with Comfer and Raymond for Tarasenko. So I guess if you position it that way and you say to your $8 million right wing, hey, your main job here is to make up for all the mistakes Tarasenko is going to make on defense. You didn't necessarily just sign your first line elite right winger, right? You signed a problem solver. So I hate that. I immediately hate it. Sorry. I'm throwing that out there from the get-go. I don't know. Gosh, I just lost so much confidence in this whole season. God damn. What are we going to do?
Well, I think that probably best case scenario, Tarasenko gets hurt and Berggren takes his spot, and we kind of reshuffle along with young guys.
So
because this is a learning season. There's almost certainly no way we make the playoffs. We're weaker than last year. I don't see how our defense is better. Goaltending is kind of a mess, and then our forwards, don't hate them, but it's not any significant upgrades, and it wasn't enough to make the playoffs. I don't know if people are going to say, well, we lost all those Larkin games, and it's like, yeah, but a lot of the team was still healthy. Raymond and Seider were incredibly healthy. DeBrincat played a lot of games. Kane played what he could. I don't know if I want to hang all my hopes on Larkin playing 82 games, because I don't know if he's ever going to do that. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with 70, but I can't confidently say that's an 82 game player.
So Max threw out there, how does Detroit construct its early lineups? And he does, like, this first paragraph here is like Larkin, Raymond, DeBrincat, Kane, Comfer, and Tarasenko. That's your top 6. And it's like, oh God, all right. Some goals are coming through. And then he goes on. From there, he wants to keep the trio together, Rasmussen, Kopp, and Fisher. And then Berggren, Veleno, Mott is your fourth line. So I kind of want to answer number 3 by looking at number 4 here. Can an unexpected young player steal a role? because I'm just I don't know. I'm ready to throw up.
That's what our commenters are already on top of that. Dan B say Nate Danielson, fourth line defensive center, Selke trophy.
Yuck. No.
Matt?
I don't want to put no. If Nate Danielson, I do agree with Steve on this. Nate Danielson's making the team. I need him to beat Comfort for that second line center role. That's how Danielson's making my team.
Brad also echoing that. Brad, welcome. I think this is our first Brad comment today, saying I can't see Danielson not being on the edge of being on the bench after last season's preseason showing. So, Matt, I do understand your concern with only having him play a few minutes, but I feel like what you're saying is what's the word I want to use?
Dumb?
No, not dumb. It's contrary to what we talked about last season with Edmondson, where it was like, I don't know how we're going to find minutes for him. And it's like, dude, it's very easy to find minutes as a defenseman on this team. We'll give you 25 minutes a game because, we got a lot of guys who can, be regular healthy scratches. So I'm not saying it's, that bleak for our forwards, but, if you can prove yourself a little bit, I think it's pretty easy to shake this up if you can kind of show some mettle.
So
we'll get you up there.
I'm gonna be an ass and pretend I was thinking this the whole time. But wouldn't the conversation in the forward group at this point just be like, can Nate produce in the top 6? But if he's surrounded by a Tarasenko, a Kane, a Raymond, or a DeBrincat, I feel like that's gonna come. I feel like it'll work itself out. And the main thing is that he's not going to look like a big doofus centering those groups when everything we've seen from his junior game to what we just saw, obviously in just the rookie tourney. But my man plays the body hard. He plays a good game on the boards, keeps control of the puck. I think that's the part of the game where it's starting to make sense to just boom, put him in there on the second line, and let's go. We would have to call out too, like Max threw out there Casper, threw out there Carter Mazur, which makes a ton of, like, Mazur's the kind of guy I'd want to test out on the fourth line for sure. That fourth line to me, I mean, doesn't get me excited, but it'll probably work. Like what was thrown out by Max, what Steve threw out there in his press conference about bringing some more stability to the bottom 6 and bringing in Tyler Mott. I get that. I totally get it. But I'm not excited for that. But I am going to be stoked, Mike, seeing Mazur fly around the ice. And, we talked about him a couple years ago. We kind of fell off the bandwagon a little bit, but a couple years ago, we were saying, hey, we can trade Tyler Bertuzzi. We got another one right here. It's totally fine. We don't need to go out to get Tyler Bertuzzi. We've got Tyler Bertuzzi at home, which was Carter Mazur. So I think he is maybe a step below Tyler, but I would be very interested to see what that looks like. And that's the guy I'd try out in your bottom 6.
Speaking of bottom 6, Derek Hand saying all we need is Danielson to come in and impress Blashill's wife, and this lineup looks better.
Boom.
Wow.
Get Derek. Her on the phone.
There we go. Brian Burton. Woo, he's getting really ahead of the game. Woo, he's about to make a name for himself here. Danielson and Nygard. Let's go. Brian, I don't think you walk away from this. Yeah. And then we had Brad saying Cat Kane, Ray, Vladdy, Danielson, Comfort for second forward line. The jokes are coming in hot and heavy, man. We also got Crimson saying JT, Comfort, Cop, and I'm going to guess Pius or Pew Suitor are like the Spider-Man meme pointing at each other. I like that one too. Yeah.
Pew's actually had a pretty good season last year.
Was he Vancouver last year?
I think so. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I don't know.
I thought, wasn't he living it up with what's his name?
Like I could picture him in the jersey. Yeah. In the Yep. There he is. Vancouver. Nice little year for Puce. Let's pull him up on Hockey Reference.
Apologies,
Actually,
I almost called Hronik Cronwall. My apologies, Hronik.
Oh, really?
I waited.
I did not catch that.
I didn't say either one. I kept that to myself, but I'll let Jared keep that receipt for a while.
Hey, he's got he almost hit a half a point per game last year.
It's
not bad. Yeah, average time on ice 15 minutes a game
for 1.6 mil. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, shoot. Yeah, do we need can we talk about getting rid of Cop again? And all right. I'm done with that. We won't rag on Cop yet. We've got a whole season to rag on Cop. Mike, so I think there's victories here. There's ways to make this more exciting. There's ways to kind of pull me up from the poo-poo that I'm sitting in now that I've been looking at this roster again. Man, I was so excited this morning. I was so on it. And now that we've gone into this roster heavy or deep again, I'm just like, oh wait.
Well, we remember how good they were when they're healthy, right? It's not a reasonable expectation, to have all of our top dogs like healthy for the whole season. So they're going to be good. It's just they'll probably score a few less goals, and I don't know what their goaltending is going to look like. But before we ride off into the sunset, there was we haven't had dueling Dans in a while, and Dan A is in the house saying not a single young player has pushed out a vet for a roster spot under Yzerman. But maybe this year's the year. And then he warns, don't hold your breath.
I mean,
my first thought was Raymond and Seider, right?
Yeah, like you could argue that it was Raymond who played out of schedule, right? Like what the schedule was supposed to be for Lucas.
Yeah, but I think in Dan's defense, I mean, we just saw the nightmare that is our goalie hierarchy, and there's 4 human beings in Kosa's way if he comes into camp hot and nothing's getting through him and he's a brick wall. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. We have 4 guys we'd have to move to get you like regular ice time. So
yep. So have fun in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, Beer City. Boop, boop.
I was gonna say, get to know Hopcat. It's right around the corner, bud. Yeah. Dan B. Lol, camp hasn't even opened yet, and you're jumping off the ship.
Let's go to opening night. Don't buy it, guys. He's got tons of red Kool-Aid just out of sight there.
Look, if you guys are watching this stuff and you're not emotional about it, if you keep a level head, what are you doing, right? Like, if we're just here to be robots and just be like, someday Steve will bring us Cup, like, what are we doing? Come on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be... I think we're going to have a year that we enjoy because some young guys get called up. I think we missed the playoffs again, and next year's our big year. Like, next year, if we don't do it, then you have to fire Yzerman. That's my solemn vow. If he can't do it next year with cap space, fire him.
I've got 2 things I want to discuss and we'll sign off. Number 1, what does Patrick Kane look like after a full summer of training? Ooh. For some reason I read this and it hurt my back. So I actually saw this as potentially something that could slow Kane down because now he's got to play a full 82 games. Like the ideal. So I kind of read that and I was like, oh, wait a minute. Is this positive? But the other thing, Mike, I think more important, I'm on hockeyreference.com right now. And the ad that I was served was depends. Is it hitting on my old lady fetish or am I ready to, would Depends do that? Would they go out of their way for their ad spend? I'm kidding. But yeah, what do you think about that Kane thought? I don't know. We'll sign off with this, but there's a part of me that's like, oh, wait a minute. He's a year older. We got pretty lucky with that injury last year. Is this a good thing?
I think there's something to players at his age kind of being on ice, right? And then they come in looking fresh. I think it kind of transcends a lot of sports. I just think he's so good that this is, this is like Brian Danielson coming back after his spinal injury. This is like, Edge coming back. It's just kind of, rocks we've never, overturned. It's an excellent player who cares a lot, who wants to be like a Hall of Famer. So that kind of work ethic. And now he's on a team that I guess he cares about. He likes playing here. So I do understand your concern, Matt. It's called Chris Middleton-itis, where he's only good for about 40 games a season. But I think that concern is for players who are a tier lower, and Patrick Kane is one of those like workout psychos, who even bothered to get his body to this point. So I wouldn't worry too much about him getting worn down.
All right, you're making me feel better. Righteous throws out there too. 88 hands don't age. That you guys are making me feel better, but I do still have. I'm gonna ride this question, this topic. I'm gonna be a little cautious. I'm not completely sold either way, but it might become a problem. Jared throws out there clear cookies. Good reminder, ladies and gentlemen, so you don't get your Depends ads. Well, see, now I have diapers, because I do buy diapers for the house, for the kids.
House diapers? Oh, now they're for the kids. Okay, they're for everyone.
It's an ad.
They're for everyone. Yeah. Okay.
Well, now I have Tampax, so I'm not buying those. I don't know if that's appealing to anybody. It's not for me.
Oh man. Matt, off the top rope. I'm sorry. We got to end this episode, but the comments are coming in really good. JWT saying they renamed that because it used to be called Dino Ciccarelli disease. Got him.
Woo.
Yeah, that was a good clothesline off the top. I like that.
All right, we'll end on that one. JWT, where were you? We're signing off.
We missed you, man.
All right, guys, thanks for coming aboard. Thank
you to the usual suspects for coming in and filling us with comments. It makes the show so much better for us. Really appreciate it.
I'm still feeling good about this Atlantic Division, but this episode made me feel worse than I felt this morning. But
we're still gonna have one more piece of good news when Seider gets re-signed. Let's go.
All right, guys, thanks for coming aboard. We'll see you next week.
Ooh, ooh. Wildberry Pop-Tarts.